Welcome Methuselahs. It's time for an unboxing. Today we bring you the new 5th edition Banu Haqim deck, a clan that spawns from an ancient bloodline of warriors, sorcerers and assassins. Now they are pillars of law and tradition in vampiric society. Also, they are not immune to intrigue and political disputes. With this deck, you use a combination of stealth, threats and violence to triumph. Your vampires have both high political status and excellent combat skills. This is a collection of 55 cards where we can find 2 new vampires and 2 cards with new art. At the back we can find information about the copyright and the distributors of this product. This time the printing is much better than the last unboxing of Echoes of Gehenna that we did. Let's open the cellophane packaging and see what's inside. At the cover we find the image of a new vampire called Oluwafunmilayo. We can read the text beginner level and we see the logos of Wall of Darkness and Black Chantry Productions. At the back of this card we can find a quick reference for beginners about turn sequence, disciplines, clans, titles and other icons. All the vampires are Camarilla and Group 6. The first one is one of the new vampires, called Arjun Shah, with superior thaumaturgy, basic obfuscate and capacity 4. We keep moving with Farah Sarroub, Prince of Detroit with capacity 7, superior thaumaturgy and celerity and basic obfuscate and auspex. Kasim Bayar is the Banu Haqim Justicar with a special ability that once each combat he can discard a political action card before range is determined to get +2 strength that combat. He has +1 bleed, is capacity 9 and has superior thaumaturgy, obfuscate and celerity and basic potence and auspex. And there are 2 copies. Oluwafunmilayo. This is the other new vampire that we find in this deck. It's Prince of Lagos and she gets +1 intercept during political actions, capacity 8 and all disciplines at superior, thaumaturgy, obfuscate, celerity and auspex. Warmaksan, Prince of Algiers, capacity 5, superior thaumaturgy, basic obfuscate and celerity. Let's start with the library cards. The first one is Alamut. It costs 1 pull and requires a Banu Haqim. It's a unique location. After a Banu Haqim you control successfully bleeds a Methuselah, you can put the pull lost by this Methuselah on this card. During the polling step of a political action, you can burn X counters from this card to give a vampire you control plus X votes. Archon, this political card requires a Prince or Justicar. Choose a Camarilla vampire. Successful referendum means this card is put on the chosen vampire. The touched vampire can enter combat with vampire as a +1 stealth direct action. Vampires attempting to block the touched vampire burn 1 blood. Bloodhands cannot be called on the touched vampire. Camarilla vampires can call a referendum to burn this card as a +1 stealth political action. Banishment, another political action. Choose a already younger vampire. Successful referendum means the chosen vampire is moved to the uncontrolled region, breaking any temporary control effects. Any cards and counters on the chosen vampire stays with them but are out of play as long as the chosen vampire remains uncontrolled. The Black Throne. This is a master card. It costs 1 pull and requires a Banu Haqim. It's a unique location. You can lock this card during the polling step of any referendum to get +2 votes. You can lock this card after a minion with a contract for which a Banu Haqim you control is chosen leaves the ready region to gain 1 pull. Blur, a combat card that requires celerity and costs 1 blood. At basic is an additional strike, at superior 2 additional strikes. Both options are limited. 2 copies. Closed Session. This card has new art. It's an action modifier that requires a Prince Justicar or Inner Circle member. only usable during the polling step of a political action, before votes and ballots are cast. Non-Camarilla vampires cannot cast votes or ballots during this referendum. Elder Intervention, also with new art. It's a reaction that costs 1 blood. Only usable during a bleed action directed at you. Do not replace until after this action. +2 Intercept. A vampire cannot play both Elder Intervention and cards named Pack Tactics during the same action. 2 copies of 4th Tradition, The Accounting, an action that costs 1 blood. +1 Stealth action, requires a Prince or Justicar. Add 3 blood to a younger vampire in your uncontrolled region. Grooming the Protégé, a master card. Move up to 3 blood from a ready vampire you control to a younger vampire of the same clan in your uncontrolled region. 2 copies. Haqim's Law, Retribution, a master that requires Banu Haqim. Put this card in play. During a bleed action, a Banu Haqim you control can discard a combat card to get +1 bleed. Hunger of Marduk, a combat card that requires Banu Haqim and Thaumaturgy. Only usable if a range is determined. At basic, this round this vampire can strike, ranged, steal 1 blood or life, becoming blood. At superior, as above, but for 2 blood or life, becoming blood. 6 copies. Hunter's Mark, an action that requires 2 disciplines. Celerity and Thaumaturgy. At basic, as a direct action, enter combat with a minion. This acting vampire gets 1 optional press during that combat. At superior, as above, and the opposing minion cannot strike, combat ends during the first round of that combat. 3 copies. Judgment, Camarilla, Segregation. It's an action that costs 1 blood, +1 stealth action, requires a Prince or Justicar. Put this card in play. Each Methuselah controlling a non-Camarilla vampire burns 1 pool during their unlock phase. Methuselahs can burn a non-Camarilla vampire they control during their master phase to burn this card. Kali's Fang. It's an equipment. It requires Banu Haqim and costs 2 pool. Unique melee weapon. Strike, strength +1 aggravated damage. The Khabar, Community. It's a mastered card that requires Banu Haqim and costs 2 pool. Unique. Put this card in play. Banu Haqim get +1 stealth when bleeding. Minions can burn this card as a direct action. Trimmer. Get +1 stealth during that action. 2 copies of Khabar, Glory, an action that requires Banu Haqim. +1 stealth action. Unique. Not usable if any non-mandatory actions have been performed this turn. Put this card on this Banu Haqim and unlock them. This Banu Haqim gets +1 bleed. If your prey is ousted, you gain 4 additional pool. Burn this card during your unlock phase. Lightning Reflexes, a combat card that requires celerity and costs 1 blood. At basic, additional strike, limited. At superior, burn X blood to get X additional strikes, limited. 2 copies. On the Qui Vive, reaction, only usable by a locked minion. A minion can play only 1 on the Qui Vive between their unlock phases. This minion wakes. They ignore the requirement to be unlocked for playing reaction cards and attempting to block until the end of the action. If this minion is an ally, they do not unlock as normal during their next unlock phase. 2 copies of Parity Shift, political action that requires a Prince or Justicar. Choose a Methuselah who has more pool than you do, and allocate 3 of their pool among 1 or more of the other Methuselahs, including you. Successful referendum means the pool is distributed as you choose. 2 copies of Priority Contract, a master that requires Banu Haqim. Unique Contract, Triflo. Choose a ready Banu Haqim you control and put this card on a minion controlled by your prey. The chosen Banu Haqim can enter combat with the attached minion as a +1 stealth direct action. If the attached minion is about to leave the ready region, you can burn this card to gain 3 pool. Resist Earth's Grasp. requires celerity and costs 1 blood. At basic, it's a combat card. Press or maneuver with 1 optional press. At superior, it's an action modifier, +1 stealth. 3 copies. Second tradition, domain. It's a reaction that requires a prince or justicar, +2 intercept, also usable by a locked prince or justicar, even if intercept is not yet needed. To burn 1 blood to unlock an attempt to block with +2 intercept. 4 copies. 2 copies of Side Strike, a combat card that requires celerity. At basic, it's a strike to dodge. At superior, additional strike that is limited. Two copies of Swallowed by the Night. It requires Obfuscate. At basic, it's an action modifier to get +1 stealth. At superior, it's a combat card to get a maneuver. Weather Control. It's a combat card that requires Thaumaturgy. Only usable before range is determined. During the first round, a vampire can only play 1 weather control each combat. At basic, both combatants are each retainer on them take 1 unpreventable environmental damage before range is determined each round this combat. At superior, as above, but the amount of damage inflicted is increased by 1 in each subsequent round. Wind Dance. It's also a combat card that requires Thaumaturgy. At basic, it's a strike to dodge. At superior, as above, with 1 additional strike to dodge. Limited. And the last one, Yoruba Shrine. It's a master that costs 1 pull and requires Banu Haqim. It's a unique location. If a ready Banu Haqim you control is the target of a directed action or is chosen by directed Methuselah in the terms of a referendum, you can lock this location to unlock the acting minion and have the action or referendum fail. Only usable as the directed action is announced or during the polling step of the referendum before votes and ballots are cast. Do you want to support us? Subscribe. Hit hard the like button and activate the bell to be notified when the new videos are released. See you at the next one.